I la 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 I la la I la 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 I la 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 I la la I la 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 I la 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 ah welcome I la la I la 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 I la 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 Hashem Alecha v'nashuva Chadesh yameinu Shameinu kekedem Alai lai alai lai 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 alai lai lai alai lai 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 lai. Okay, say no guitar until after Lag BaOmer. Kind of a bummer. Not as much fun. I'm sorry, Monkey, right?
Monkey.
Okay. So welcome to Monkey and to Meira and to Ayeh and whoever's going to join us online, Yael and my mother and hopefully Katie. So Katie, today I was at her two sons' brises, one right after the other, Levi and Gavriel. So Mazel Tov to Katie, and I don't know how old Katie is now, but she's not as young as when I first met her. To get married and have 3 kids at not such a young age, it's really something. You have to have a lot of emunah to get to that point. So they should go up Bezat Hashem, and everyone here should have children, healthy children, parnasa and shalom bayit, and good health, and chasidish nachas from all your children, Bezat Hashem, and then from you. Not just that you have from them, but they should have from you, Bezat Hashem. Okay, so we're learning from Yud Bet, lesson 12, in part 2 of Likutey Moharan. And since it's been a few weeks since we had a class, maybe 3 weeks since we had a class, I'm going to just start from the beginning, but with the English, and just go over it quickly until we get to where we left off. So I'll just give you the bottom line of this lesson. This lesson is called Ayeh, which whenever I see it in English, it reminds me of Aryeh. It looks like Aryeh, but it's not Aryeh, it's Ayeh. If you want water, some water here. And Ayeh is Ayeh Mekom Kavodo. Where is Hashem's glory? And that's what a person would shout out when they're basically saying, where is Hashem? So the first thing that comes to mind when I say those words, where is Hashem, are the Holocaust survivors that I grew up with on Miami Beach. That any of them that weren't religious, and most of them weren't religious, or they were Reform, but they had grown up very religious, so for them being Reform wasn't being very religious, it was just holding on to something. When I started becoming religious, I'd say to them, what's with you? You grew up Haredi, you grew up in a Hasidic home, and you don't keep Torah and mitzvot? And they say, yeah, where was Hashem in the Holocaust? You tell me where Hashem was in the Holocaust. So I can't answer that question. I can answer the question with other people's answers, that the PSSner Rebbe, who was in the Holocaust, he's known as the Warsaw Ghetto Rebbe, he said Hashem was everywhere in the Holocaust, because you know how many favors you could do for another person in the Holocaust, and how many people miraculously survived the Holocaust. Of course, there's the famous story, I don't remember who told it, I think it had something to do with Simon Wiesenthal, who was called a Nazi hunter after the Holocaust. He basically tracked down as many Nazis as he could and brought them to court. Now I think they're all dead. But there was a story that was brought to him where after the war was over, of course, there were Jews still in concentration camps. The army didn't know what to do with them. The US Army, the British Army, the Russian Army didn't know what to do with these skeletons of people. They didn't know where to house them or feed them or anything, so they just kept them in the concentration camps, like for weeks afterwards. But the moment that the camp was liberated, there was a Jew who had snuck a pair of tefillin and hid them under his arm. So they must have been really tiny tefillin probably just one, maybe the head tefillin or the arm tefillin, but he was able to hide them. And after the war, he was lending out his tefillin in exchange for pieces of bread. So this is the story that this guy is telling Simon Wiesenthal. And he said, I watched this guy eat so much bread that he killed himself. He ended up dying from overeating because he'd been starved and he couldn't eat so much food. And he said, and can you believe what he was willing to do with tefillin? So Simon Wiesenthal said to him, well, look at it the other way. Look at people who had been starving for years and they were willing to give up a piece of bread to put on tefillin. So it's like the cup is half full and half empty. Really, which way do you want to look at it? So that's my general answer to the Holocaust. Since I brought it up, I'll answer it. But a person can say, Ayeh makom kavodo, Hashem, where are you in this place? And of course, Hashem is in every place. Now, Rebbe Nachman takes that, so like if we want to say, where is Hashem in the Holocaust? There is Hashem in the Holocaust. You have to find him. And he also is going to talk about this. You can also say, and was Hashem giving the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, the power to murder Jews? And the answer is yes, but it wasn't Kedusha. Of course, Hashem is providing sustenance for everything. Hashem gives us free will, which is another thing he talks about in the lesson here, that Hashem created the world through Asara Ma'amarot, the 10 utterances, what we call them in English. Utterance is a word you would never use except for when teaching Torah, like auspicious moment, Zman Mesugal, or all of these funny words that nobody ever uses in English. Phylacteries. Did you put in your phylacteries today? My phylacteries are at home. Next to the second pair of phylacteries. So, this is not something, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Auspicious moment. And what? Utterances, thank you very much. So the 10 utterances. So Hashem created the world with 10 words that Hashem is speaking. And these are all metaphors because we can't really understand what it is that Hashem is speaking. Just that we're created, we had a whole lesson about this as well, in a vacant space where Hashem is creating the space, but Hashem is outside of the space, but Hashem is the space. So since we live in this paradox, we can't understand Hashem, but Hashem is present all the time. So if Hashem is present, how can we not understand it? Like if this cup is present, I can understand this cup on every level, on an artistic level, on a structural level, on a molecular level, everything I can understand about this cup, but I can't understand Hashem. That's because Hashem is so big that you can't understand it. It's beyond us. So Hashem created the world with these 10 utterances, and why didn't Hashem create it with just one? Why did Hashem have to create 10? And the same thing you could say, why did Hashem take 6 days to create the world and then have Shabbos? Why isn't just everything Shabbos? And that's the purpose of this world. That's the whole reason that we're here in the first place. That's really the big question that makes sense of everything. You're here to make choices. That's all what it's really about. If we take Katie, for example. So I hope I'm not saying too much personal stuff about Katie, but I think it's public information. I don't know if she's going to watch the class eventually or not. But it took a long time for her to get married, and I tried to really help. Like I offered myself to the whole. She had to make a choice. She had to choose to marry Sam, who she married, and they have the children together. And it wasn't an easy choice, but because she made that choice, that allowed her to have the next choice to be able to have a baby, and then to have the twins, and who knows what else is coming. But a choice. Hashem has to give us that choice in order for these things to have meaning. And if you want to go all the way back, we all know that the body is temporary. The body dies. The soul is forever. The soul is eternal. And it might be difficult for an atheist to understand that, but really, I used to be an atheist myself, so I'm speaking from experience. If I were to put myself back in my atheist thinking cap, so I would just keep asking myself, well, what is the life force that's sustaining you? And I wouldn't be able to answer the question. So I would have to say, it's something that's there, but I can't tell you what it is, but I don't know what it is. So I would admit that it's not God. I would say for sure it's not God, but I don't know what it is. So what I would say to myself is, well, I call it God, and you can just call it, I don't know what it is. It's the same thing. Who cares what you call it? It's the same thing. So Hashem took this soul and puts it in this world. And this world is called Olam Asiyah, the world of action, but it's really the world of Bechira, the world of choice, where we make choices in this world, and that's the whole purpose. And that's why life is so hard. That's why there's so many challenges, because you could call this world the world of challenges, because that's what it's all about. So that when you get upstairs, when your soul reaches 120 years and it leaves the body and it goes back upstairs, it says, I made some choices. And Hashem says, really, what choices did you make? Let's go over the choices that you made. You can close the door if it bothers you. And I don't know how much it'll help, but you can close the door. Don't fall over, Malki. So you're going to say, well, I chose this and I chose this. And so if you have the perspective to know that that's the reason that you're here in the first place, then you're going to start making choices now and not regret the choices that you didn't make or that you did make when your soul gets back upstairs. For sure, responsibility, but some things you'll take responsibility for, some things you won't. So for example, when I ate non-kosher things, or I didn't keep Pesach properly because I didn't know, so I'm not going to be punished for that. But things that intentionally I do, in my opinion, Hashem is not interested in the punishment. Hashem is interested in us making the right choice. I'm not even getting to the lesson yet. I got to really get to this quickly. That's what it says in the Tanya. The Tanya, there's a quote of a king who hires a prostitute to tempt his son, the prince. And the prostitute wants him to turn down the offer. She is hired to seduce him, but she wants the prince to choose not to be seduced. So that's the analogy of what we're going through in this world. All of these temptations are coming to us, and Hashem is hoping that we won't choose them. So if we do choose them, there's a type of punishment to get you back on the path. But the point is not to bring you in this world just to punish you. That's a terrible God. The point in this world is to give you real temptation and for you to make the right choice. And Hashem is saying, yes, that's why I brought you into this world. Okay, so now that's related to this lesson because it's Ayeh makom kavodo. If a person falls into a dark place, a place where they don't feel Hashem's presence, wow, that's a serious bottle monkey. That's your small one. I have a gigantic umbrella. Like, it's bigger than this table. And when I walk around the shuk, people laugh. They see it and they start laughing. I tell them, don't worry, this is my small one. Okay. So when we get to a place where we say, Hashem, where are you? Where are you in our lives? Rebbe Nachman is teaching us that every yiridah, every downfall is letzorech aliyah, is for an ascent. And he even says it differently. He says, Tachlit ha-yiridah aliyah. The purpose of going down is to go up. Because you know that if you start someplace, you can never really go. Like if you start high, you can never really go higher. Or you can go higher and higher and higher. Let's take a simple example. Somebody who starts a business has nothing. They start a business, they build it into a multi-billion-dollar business. And then their son takes it over and he makes it twice as much. Now it's worth, instead of 10 billion, 20 billion. Who do we admire more? The guy that started from 0 to 1 billion, or the guy that took it from 10 billion to 20 billion? So Hashem is saying, I want to put you on the 0 so you can make the 10 billion on your own, because that's valued more. So when you're at 0, you might say, well, I would really like to start at 10 billion, Hashem. I'll give up on the honor and the glory and whatever else you have in store for me. I'll take the easier one. Did anyone see the movie The Matrix? Remember there was this character in The Matrix that was a spy, for the matrix, and he says, put me back in the matrix and make me rich and make me forget everything. I don't remember anything. So I don't know. He got killed in the movie in the end. But we'd like to say to Hashem, don't make it so hard on us. But Hashem is like, you think I created the whole world just to make it easy for you? That's not the point. And so Rebbe Nachman is coming to remind us again and again. And that's the point of learning Chassidus, by the way. And that's one of the gifts of Breslov Chassidus, as opposed to Chabad Chassidus. Not that I have anything against Chabad Chassidus. I've learned Chabad Chassidus for over 30 years, probably 40 years. It's just Chabad Chassidus is with a big microscope, or magnifying glass. It's very, very focused on the very deep Kabbalistic ideas. And Rebbe Nachman is always coming back to, let me just encourage you, let me lift you up. Let me give you some positive way of looking at the world and some perspective. He also has some of this stuff, but nothing like Chabad. Chabad is just full on. We're going to give you the deepest Kabbalah we possibly can, and good luck if you get a little bit out of it. So that's why we learn Chassidus, so that when we face the world, we have the energy to get back up when we get knocked down, and we have the energy to be joyous because we can appreciate what's being given to us. And then when our soul gets to the world to come, Hashem is like, Yesher koach. I knocked you down, you got up. I gave you lots of good things, you thanked me, and you were happy. You don't have to thank Hashem, you could just be happy. That's enough for Hashem. Like people will say, why? What's all this davening? God, Hashem is such an egomaniac. He wants us to praise us all the time? No, it's to remind us to be grateful for what we have. Okay, so that's the introduction to the introduction of the lesson, only 20 minutes introduction. So here we go. When a person follows their own intellect and cleverness, they can fall into many mistakes and pitfalls and come to great evil, God forbid. And this has caused tremendous damage, like the famous villains who led the world astray on the account of their cleverness and intellect. And so we're talking about Shabtai Tzvi and Jacob Frank, which misled tens of thousands of Jews in only a short time before the Baal Shem Tov came around and Rebbe Nachman came around. And this I don't think it has such a deep effect on us till today. But a lot of the Hasidic Rebbes were trying to lift up the Jews that were shocked by Shabtai Tzvi and them taking them astray. So Shabtai Tzvi said he was Mashiach. People followed him all the way to Turkey until he converted and became a Muslim, Yusuf Islam or whatever he called himself. And Jacob Frank came only like 20 or 30 years after him, and he took at least 26,000, it's mentioned here in the footnotes, 26,000 Jews into Christianity. They were baptized intentionally. They came as Jews and they said, we want to become Christians, because they believed that they were going to elevate Christianity. That they were so holy that by going into the deepest, darkest place, they would elevate it, but instead they were sucked in. So he says, if you're going to use your intellect, you're going to get confused and you're going to screw things up. He says, what is Ikar hayadut urak lelech betmimut ufshitut? The main purpose of Judaism, the main essence, is to be simple and to be honest and innocent. But of course within the framework of halacha. And I think this is one of the hardest things you'll see. I think Ayeh probably saw this growing up. You see a lot of people that hide behind their suits and their beards and their egos. And they're not being simple and they're not being honest. And they can be the greatest scholars. They can be incredible, have incredible Torah knowledge. But you have to be pshitut uvitmimut. And if you look at the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who's a modern day tzaddik that we have so many videos of him and so many stories of him, you can see he was the greatest tzaddik alive in his time. And Reb Shlomo said he was the greatest tzaddik since the Baal Shem Tov. He said there was the Baal Shem Tov, there was the last Lubavitcher Rebbe, and after that, probably Mashiach. And so, we hear stories about the Baal Shem Tov, but I got to meet the Rebbe once. I wish I had gone again, but I didn't have the guts after the first time I met him. I was too scared after that. But we get to see videos of him, and what you'll see in the videos is that he's simple and he's honest. You don't see any ego in the Rebbe, ever. I've never seen the slightest bit of any ego, and I've never read any story about the Rebbe having ego. The only ego that the Rebbe had was build more Chabad houses. And if you ask Rabbi Gestetner, from my note down here, why do you keep buying buildings? Because he buys buildings, and they were supposed to sell a building, but they didn't want to sell the building because they're going to raise more money. Why? Because he'll answer you and say, when I get to Shemayim, and I face the Rebbe, and I say, I was the shaliach of the Rebbe, and he was like one of the shluchim that was appointed by the Rebbe to come to the old city of Jerusalem and to Makarev English speakers with a proper letter from the Rebbe and the shlichus and everything. He says, I have to be able to tell the Rebbe I did everything I possibly could. Everything and beyond. So you look at the Rebbe, that's a model for it, that we have to be simple and straightforward. And if a person, now I'm going to just summarize this because even reading it straight out is going to take too long. If a person isn't honest with themselves, they'll fall into traps. They'll find some other way of trying to understand the world, and you can do it through Judaism as well. You can keep all the halachot perfectly and have no oneg on Shabbos, have no joy on Shabbos. You can have no joy in your life. There's a famous story of the Baal Shem Tov about that. Right? I'll just give it to you the story in 1 minute or less. The Baal Shem Tov has a vision who's going to sit next to him in Gan Eden, and it's this guy who keeps Shabbos with a party, smoking cigars and drinking non-kosher wine and playing instruments with his friends on Friday night. And he asked the guy, why do you do that? And he says, my parents died when I was young, and I remember they always had a party on Friday night, and there was lots of food and music, and so that's what I do. And so in heaven they said, the Baal Shem Tov said to the voice in heaven, I got to teach this guy halacha. And they said, no, if he figures it out, he figures it out. If not, that's it. And who is he going to sit next to if he goes to the other place, to Gehinom? So it's this rabbi who does everything perfect. He won't let his kids walk outside because they might step on an ant. He cuts the wicks of the oil to light the candles on Friday night so that nobody will be tempted to turn the oil and use a little bit more, which you're not allowed to do. So they sit in darkness. He does everything exactly right, but he's angry and he has no joy. So here you have the contrast of a guy who doesn't know anything but has the joy, a guy who knows everything that doesn't have the joy. And so my point is that you can be a great Torah scholar, and if you don't follow Rebbe Nachman's advice of being simple and honest, then you'll be lost simply in your suit and your beard. We don't want to be there. So he says, what's the purpose of all the creation? It's kavod. So kavod is a difficult thing to understand. I was really happy. I have a chavuta. Should be healthy, Alan ben Chana Liba. And he's an elder of Breslov Chassid. We've been learning for many years together. And I bring in all my stuff from the class. Most of the time he likes it. I don't think he's ever told me he didn't like anything. But for him, it's totally off the wall. So I'll tell him, Hashem's glory, kavod. In English, it's glory. And I said, Reb Shalom, who he knew Reb Shalom, I said, Reb Shalom would translate it as Gal Ori, a wave of my light. So I said, really, what is Kavod Hashem? What is Hashem's glory? It's bringing Hashem's light into the world. So he said, wow, I like that. But that was like a couple of years ago he said he liked it. And we just happened to come across it either this week or last week in Rebbe Nachman, in the commentary on the Likutey Moharan, here in one of the volumes of Otei Or, where he says, Kavod is Hashem's light. There it is. And I was like, wow, all these years I've been teaching that, but here now I have Rebbe Nachman, I'm safe. So if the whole world was created for Hashem's kavod, it means that the whole world was created for us to bring Hashem's light into the world. And how do we do that? We do it by basically, those of us that are Ba'alei Tshuva, that's how you bring Hashem's light into this world. Those of us that do Achnasat Ochim, or go to shul, or give tzedakah, or any mitzvah that connects between a person and another person, that's bringing Hashem's light into the world. And that's all Hashem wants. That's why Hashem created the world, in order for us to bring His light into the world. So if a person gets to the point where they think that what I'm doing this for myself, imagine a person that does achnasat ochim. No, hi, Zahava. Imagine a person that has guests, and they really feel like it's all about me. Everybody's coming because I'm such a good cook, and I'm such a good host, and I'm so funny, and I'm so smart, and I'm so entertaining. Or imagine somebody who leads the davening. He's like, I have the best voice in the world, and everybody wants to come and hear me. There are people like that. I'm not one of them. All of the work I do, now most of it is done. Now it's just kind of maintaining and growing on a different level. But for many years, it was Reb Shalom who would take a baseball bat and hit me over the head after Friday night davening and say, "What's with all the ego? Disgusting, I can't stand it. I want to throw up out the window." So I say, "What ego?" He's like, "I heard you sing that note. What's that high note? Why are you singing that? That was pure ego." So it was a lot of training of basically you get up there and then you open the door and say, "Ego, sit over there," while the neshama leads the davening. And then when people say, "I love the davening," I'm like, I loved it too. It was a fun ride. But you can't really say I was leading the davening. In my note, for sure you're not leading the davening. Everyone else is leading the chazan. So if you have somebody who's full of themselves, they're taking Hashem's glory. They're taking Hashem's light for themselves. Because Avraham Avinu, he sets up this tent in the middle of the desert. What a crazy thing, right? Sets up a tent in the middle of the desert, and he has all four sides of it open. He's like, "Everybody come, I want everyone to come to my tent." And the food is free. And he gives out all this food in the middle of nowhere, where people are thirsty and hungry. And people say, "Well, how much do we owe you?" He says, "No, you don't owe me anything. Just thank Hashem." That's kavod Hashem. That's the example of Avraham Avinu. That's exactly why we have that example. But if a person comes and they say, "Well, leave me a 5-star review on Yelp," or whatever people use today, Google reviews, I don't know, and the bill is $500, and I'll put you on a waiting list for 5 years from now if you want to come again. Something like that. Okay, there are businesses like that. If you see it as a business, that's fine. But if you see it as a mitzvah, then you're taking Hashem's glory. Okay. So the last thing is the question: can Hashem? What about the places that are not the cleanest places? Imagine, I don't know, a bar where people are doing drugs and there's music and there's it's not sanua, and you would say, "Wow, where is Hashem here?" So Hashem, of course, is there, but Hashem is not there in a revealed way where Hashem's light is being revealed. It's being sustained by Hashem's energy, but it's not a place where you're going to draw light from it. So now we're on Va'afilu ba'avirot u'dvarim ra'im, which is right after Bet in the lesson. It should be, it's not such a long lesson. Here, give it to me and I'll find it for you. You see it? Okay. There's no bet here. You're a bet. V'yim yaksher. Wait, no, this is... What is this? This is not part 2. This is all of the Likutey Moharan? Mm-hmm. So you have to go to the second part. Part 2. Tneinã. Yud Bet. It's a short lesson. Yud Bet. There we are. And it doesn't have the letters here. It should be, here it is, Va'afilu. Right after V'yeshayahu. See it? Va'afilu. Okay, so I'm going to read the introduction here. We're just going to do like 10 minutes of reading the text. I have a short story. And at least we caught up for next week. Okay. כדי לבאר כי הנפילה וירידה היא תכלית העלייה. To explain this idea that the purpose of going down, or it doesn't say yirida, it says nefila, of getting tripped up and falling down, is ultimately for the purpose of going up. And really, like, that's a lesson you can just sit on for like 100 years. Why did you fall? To get up. That is such an important lesson, because you're going to fall. And if you say, oh, why did you do this to me, Hashem? Why am I in this situation? Well, you know, it's for you to get up. So he's going to explain, why did you fall down? In order to get up, because everything was created for Hashem's light to be revealed in the world. That's how I'm translating lichvodo. And because the whole world is filled with Hashem's light, then even in the disgusting and dark and dirty places of the world, Hashem's honor, you would think, is also there. And so in the time, so he's saying, well, if you follow the logic that in every place Hashem's glory is there, Hashem's light is revealed there, even in places like a disco club where people are doing disgusting things, then when you're falling down, you can say, what good is there in me falling down? What good is there in me having, God forbid, health problems, financial problems, marital problems, all these problems? He says, well, if you believe that Hashem sustains everything, then Hashem is also sustaining your downfall. And so if you know that Hashem is also going to sustain you when you get back up. But if you get stuck there, if you think, oh, Hashem just knocks me down and never gets me up, then you can never get up. But if you say, Hashem knocks me down in order to get me up, then you can get back up. For example, every Friday night, every Shabbos, Rebbe Nachman, we're very good friends. So that's why I mentioned him, because we've known each other for so many years. He says, we have to daven mincha, or we have to set up Seudat Mashiach. So I say, we get to. He says, that's it. We get to daven mincha. We get to set up Seudat Mashiach. Now the nice thing with him is he forgets everything. So I tell him the next week, he's like, that's it. Get to. And I could tell the same joke again and again and again, and he never remembers it. But that the difference between have to and get to is the difference between falling down and knowing that you can get up. Ulam lich'ora pasuk uchvodi la'acher lo yitain soter zot. But he said before, which I didn't read all the text, he said, yes, I gave my light. My light is revealed in the world, but my light is not going to be revealed to others. Others meaning the goyim or negative spaces. So you would say, well, if you're saying that Hashem's glory, Hashem's light is everywhere, then Hashem's light is also with the goyim, and then Hashem's light is also negative places. And so it says, soter zot. It contradicts this. Ki mora she'en kavod Hashem itpashet l'sham. Because we learned that Hashem's light doesn't go to those places. V'yive'er ki hakavod sham hu kavod sheba me ma'amar satum. And now he's going to explain that the light of Hashem that's revealed there is a light that's a hidden light. It's there, but it's not a revealed light. And that's the difference. So even in the darkness, there's light. Even in darkness, unless it's total pitch darkness, but if you turn off the lights in this room, so there's a little bit of light outside. But we would adjust, and we could even read probably from a book. But when the light is on, then you really get a lot out of it. That's the difference. The light is there, but it's hidden. The light is revealed. And even in transgressions or evil things, for example, idol worship, God forbid, shesham ein kavod yitbarach, where there Hashem's light is not present, even though it's there, but it's not present. The b'chinat kavod hakatuv b'kadosh baruch hu. This is connected to what it says about Hashem. Uchvodi la'acher lo yiten. I'm not going to put my light in the others. Sheyesh gvul mechitza la'akavod shelo yitpashet l'sham. There's a limit to where Hashem's light is going to go. It's not going to go into whatever disgusting place you can think of. It's not going to be there. Or pornography. Somebody could say, well, Hashem created humans and Hashem created sex. So isn't pornography worshiping Hashem? No, that's absurd. That's just somebody feeding their ego. Hashem's light is not revealed in stealing, in drugs, in pornography, and all of these things, even though, yes, Hashem created them, and Hashem is giving them the energy for them to exist, even right now. And even though Hashem's light fills the whole world, there's still a limit. Hashem's light is not going to be revealed in those places. That a person shouldn't go to those places and say, that a person shouldn't go to those places because this is connected to Hashem's light is not going to be revealed in those places. There's a limit to every type of honor. In every one of the 10 utterances that Hashem spoke and speaking all the time, there's a limit to how much of Hashem's light is going to be revealed. Oh, there's a whole family here. That it won't go spread out into those places, as mentioned above. Hainu, that is to say, Sham kavod Hashem. Hashem's light is not going to be revealed in those places. Kihem hefech kavod Hashem, because they're the opposite of Hashem's light. Aval be'emet gam sham yesh kavod Hashem behester vehelem gadol umechuseh kamo sheyivaer. So we're going to pause here. We'll continue next week. I'm going to tell you a story in a second. So even though it's true that Hashem's energy is sustaining those places, Hashem's light is not revealed there. So what you're going to find, if you were to go to shul for Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur, you're not going to find in a bar on Friday night. Even though Hashem's light is sustaining both of them. It's simply an impossibility. It's not going to exist. And that's the point that he's making. And how does that connect with the beginning? Because he said if a person uses their own intellect and knowledge to try to understand what's going on, they're going to confuse themselves and they're going to throw themselves off. And so a person can just use this logic. Wow, I didn't realize how many are here. Good time. That's what you have for having reading glasses on. If a person uses their logic, then they'll end up making mistakes. Okay, I'll make the story quick so you can get away from the infestation. So I probably told this story before because it's a well-known story. The Baal Shem Tov Motzei Shabbos, he's standing there with his Hasidim. They literally just made Havdalah. And this woman comes running in and she says, Rebbe, my baby is starving and I don't have money to buy milk for my baby. Give me some money to buy milk for my baby. Now everybody knows, Motzei Shabbos, nobody's going to have any money. So where's the Baal Shem Tov going to get money from? The Baal Shem Tov tells his Hasidim, put your hands in your pocket and everybody give this woman a coin from your pocket. Now the Hasidim knew that there's no coin in their pockets, but they put their hands in and everybody had a coin and everyone gave a coin to this woman. She thanked the Rebbe and walked away. Now what's the miracle? Is the miracle that everyone had a coin in their pocket? Or is the miracle that they put their hand in their pocket? And of course the greater miracle is that they put their hands in their pockets, because according to logic, you would, if you're like a tzaddik, the closest circle of the Baal Shem Tov were tzaddikim, they would know there's no coin in their pocket. There's no way there's a coin in their pocket. But they also know that the Baal Shem Tov would never tell them to do something for no reason. If the Baal Shem Tov says, stick your hand in your pocket and give the coin to the woman, nobody doubted it for 1 second. And that's the real lesson. Rebbe Nachman had a lesson we learned many years ago. He says, don't question me. Just do what I say. I'm going to make your life easy. Just do what I say. So Bezat Hashem, we should merit that. And I guess these are the souls of who knows what that wants to join us. Everyone, thank you for joining us. And we'll continue again next week. Bezat Hashem, no guitar, so I'm not going to sing now. Sei gesund.